Hello there, welcome to day 24 of our Get Up and Go challenge, our 40-day, holy buckets, 40 days of getting up and going. Guess what? We get up and go every day. Eventually, whether you hit snooze 20 times on your alarm or you hop out of bed, eventually we all get up and go. We get up and get moving. Even when I was bedridden, I had to get up and go to the bathroom at least. So somehow, some way, some shape, some form, we all figure out how to get up and go, how to get things moving in our life. Today is our second part of our SOAP acronym for how we deal with changes, how we deal with challenges, how we deal with the stuff that just keeps slapping us in the face or up alongside the head that shows up in our life. Now, in addition to that, we're going to talk a little bit about one of my, I don't know if it's my favorite subjects or one of my least favorite subjects, but I've definitely been on the receiving end of triggers. We're going to talk about triggers today. But first, let's talk about the O in the SOAP model. Yesterday, hopefully, you did your homework and you figured out where you are and where you want to go. What's your story? What's your situation? With respect to the area of your life, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, contribution, or relationships. With respect to one of those 7 areas, which one are you working on this time through the SOAP acronym, through the SOAP model, through the process, so that on a subconscious level, we can ensure that we always have at our fingertips an incredible tool to help us get through any change, any challenge, any obstacle, any roadblock, anything that pops up in our life and surprises us, and we have to find a way to deal with it. This will give us a model, a framework, a foundational model to run on a subconscious level, and then we can, sometimes we got to bring it up to the conscious, right? Sometimes when things like COVID-19 pop up, or riots and bomb threats in your neighborhood, we had one of those just down the hill from me yesterday in my little town, which is just mind-boggling. But stuff comes up, and we get to decide how we're going to respond and how we're going to react to it. And so we just thought, we talked about what is the situation, where is it, where do we want to be, and where are we and where do we want to be. So I'm sharing that I'm working on my mental health, right? My mental well-being, my mental health during this time through the model. And yesterday we did an exercise to look at our beliefs and just brainstorm our beliefs. And I hope you did this, because I found it really, really powerful and enlightening and eye-opening. Because guess what? I didn't have any trouble writing down all my mental beliefs, right? All the beliefs, and not, I'm sure I didn't get all of them, but I got enough of them to give me a great snapshot of, holy crap, these beliefs are causing all of these problems, because we had beliefs in one column, problems in the other. And guess what? For every belief, sometimes there was more than one problem that I was letting it create in my life for me, right? Now, I don't know about you, but for the most part, I don't need to be creating more problems for myself. And that led me to think, guess what? I am my biggest trigger of drama and trauma and struggles and challenges and problems, and the impetus of change in my life, actually bigger than anyone outside of me or anything outside of me overall has been in my life. Now, I'm 60 years old, so I've had a lot of opportunity to experience triggers, right? Now, what's a trigger? A trigger is anything that sets off or creates an emotional reaction in us, an emotional or a thought process or a belief or some kind of a reaction in us, and it does it pretty much automatically. Now, I don't know about you, but I was married, I've been divorced for quite a while now. I mean, I've been divorced a long time, but we finally just finalized everything just a couple of months ago. Actually, no, a couple of weeks ago. We actually finalized and separated everything, except, you know what, we got kids together, but we separated all the other assets. You know, we're always going to have our beautiful children in common, but for the most part, separated that. If you have siblings, if you are a sibling, if you have been in a relationship that did or didn't work out, we all have the ability to trigger one another as human beings. So it makes life a little more complicated. It also makes it a lot more interesting and sometimes a little more fun if we approach the topic of triggers in a learning and enlightening in a positive way. Then they're not so powerful, and we're not so easily manipulated by them. So a trigger could be, okay, here, I'll give you an example. A trigger is whenever my ex-husband would call me, even when we were still married, it went over years and years. He would we learned we actually had a real estate, we worked with a real estate coaching company because when we got into real estate, and from that time on we learned this strategy that you would always ask somebody, hey, have you got a minute, have you got time, is this a good time to talk? And so he adopted that on me and used it on me. And so whenever he called and said, and he didn't do it in a positive way, right? Whenever he would call me, which was like 15, 20 times a day, he would say, you got a second, you got a minute. And after that, you know, because I would always say yes, because you make time for your significant other. When they're calling, you assume it's something important. It would always be followed, and it, not always, but always. It was always followed by a lecture and a tirade about something that was wrong or that I had done wrong, usually that I had done wrong. So it got to the point where whenever he would call, as soon as the words came out of his mouth, you got a second, it was just a trigger. It was a trigger for me because I always knew that there was some kind of barrage and berating that would come after that statement. And even if I said, no, I'm tied up, I'm busy at my business right now, or I'm busy at work right now, or I'm at the store, I'm at the doctor, it always came anyway. Even if I said, no, I'm busy, it wasn't respected, and that behavior would follow. So I got this real aversion to the phrase, and it triggers me, you got a second, you got a minute. Can I talk to you about something? And it's not rational, it's not reasonable, because a lot of times people like that ask that, and they are asking in a respectful way. They are, hey, I don't want to bother you if you're busy, we can talk another time. But with this particular human being, that is a huge trigger for me. So it can be a phrase, it can be a tone of voice, it can be a smell, it can be something that you see that reminds you of somebody else. Now, triggers can work both in negative ways, like the example I just gave, or in positive ways, right? I smell lilacs, and I am immediately reminded of my dad's dad, my grandfather, my dad's father. Even to this day, whenever I smell lilacs, and guess what? Every spring I get to smell lilacs and be reminded of my amazing grandfather, because the smell of lilacs, that was his favorite flower, and we would talk about it every year when the lilacs came out, that as I remember growing up with him. And even though he passed away when I was in my early 20s, here I am 60, and the smell of lilacs will still forever and always remind me of my grandfather. Now, the smell of sugar cookies, and certain sugar cookies that my sister continues to make, will remind me of my amazing 90. My grandmother passed away last fall, and she was just a month and a half short of, or little over a month shy of being 100 years old. So sugar cookies or baking or certain sights and sounds and smells and words will remind me of her. So a trigger can be a positive thing or it can be a negative thing. It just seems like the things that are negative in our life, we pay more attention to, right? The things that cause us pain, we absolutely positively pay more attention to. So triggers can be very subtle. They can be, most of them are subconscious, right? Most of the things that trigger us or tap us into another feeling or another experience or remind us of something from the past, most of them are subconscious, and we don't even realize there's something that's going on. The only reason I can pull up and think of examples of triggers in my life is because I've done some studying of triggers. I learned about them. I'm trying to think who I even learned about them from. I've studied them from many sources, so I don't use them a lot on myself in a positive way, but you can absolutely positively use them to get a behavior or something that you want. Triggers can be alarms or reminders, and I do use on purpose triggers on my cell phone, on my mobile device. It's more than a phone, right? I use my cell phone the least as a cell phone, right, to make phone calls on. That's the least I use my phone for. Mostly I joke that my phone is a camera, because ever since mobile devices have gotten really good cameras on them, I quit carrying a digital camera, and I just always take pictures now with my mobile device, right? Because they're much more powerful than just a phone. So triggers, what we want to talk about today, and I kind of jumped into triggers before, is we want to realize that things trigger us, and we have the ability to decide how we're going to respond to that. It's the same with the O in soap. So often, we are faced with a situation and a challenge where we know we have to make a change, right? Staying the same, we can stay the same, but then we're going to get batted around by the situation, and it might not turn out as well as it can for us. We might end up having a suboptimal result just because we didn't do anything. The SOAP model is to teach us to ensure that we get the best possible result for us, no matter what the situation is. So the O in SOAP stands for options. It reminds us that we have infinite possibilities in how we can deal with and how we can respond to whatever situation we're in. So today, our action item is to brainstorm. I love brainstorming. You know, we're going to do it at least 7 times during this exercise because it's such a powerful tool. It's one of those things like having a SOAP framework in your toolbox that you can call upon anytime to realize that there's multiple solutions, there's multiple options to any problem, any challenge that you're facing. When we back ourselves up against a wall and we feel like we're at the end of our rope, which was something that I was chatting about today, it's because of, usually it's because of fear. Usually it's because of past experiences that we've had that didn't turn out the way that we wanted. But when we feel like everything's black and white, there's only one solution, there's only one thing that we can possibly do, number one, we're absolutely positively wrong. Because there's always more than one option. There's always more than one thing that we can do. And that's why I love brainstorming so much, because it shows us if we just sit down and think for a couple of minutes, or maybe you just ask yourself the question, okay, what am I going to do? What are all the possibilities of moving my mental well-being from where it is now to where I want it to be? What are all the possible things? Could I get a personal coach? Yeah, but it would cost me. And don't say yeah, but just, I could get a personal coach. I could get a coach to help me with my mindset. I could go see a shrink. I could ask a friend. I could read a book. I could do some exercises. I could Google it, for heaven's sakes. And you start rolling and just writing down all the options of what you could do for get you to from point A to point B, or point C, D, E, F, all the way to the end of Z, to the success that you want in a certain area by brainstorming all the options. So today our action item is to brainstorm at least 10 things you could possibly do. Because if you just do 2 or 3, you're going to stay in that little box of thinking that there's nothing you can do, or there's very few things you can do. What I want you to do with this exercise, and why it's important, is you want to expand your belief system, because we talked about beliefs yesterday, that there are always actually infinite possibilities. Just because we can't see it right now doesn't mean there aren't a whole lot of possibilities in a whole lot of ways that any situation can be dealt with. So as I'm thinking about my mental capacity, my mental well-being, my thoughts, my beliefs about things and this aspect and area of my life, today I'm going to brainstorm, and you are going to brainstorm. I'm going to brainstorm all of the things I could possibly do to get my mindset from a 7 to closer to a 10. I mean, I want it to be a 10, right? I want to know that I'm at the top of my game. My thoughts, not my feelings, we're going to talk about those next week with emotions, but that my thoughts and my mindset is supporting me in whatever it is that I want to do. Because kind of like our physical well-being, our mental well-being is right up there with it, because they're interconnected. You can't separate your mind from your body, right? Our mind is always making our body work. It's all about our energy and how we're showing up in the world. So today, action item, brainstorm at least 10 and share 3 in the comments below. Share 3 things that you could possibly do. Hey, the more far-fetched, the more freaking ridiculous, the more fun, the better. So just grab 3 things off of your list and share them in the comments below about what you could possibly do to impact your whatever area you're working on. I'm working on mental, so I'll share 3 things about what I could possibly do to impact my mental health, right? My mental well-being. And you know, they might be get a lobotomy, take medication. My ex-husband was always thinking I should be on medication, right? That's the sign that your relationship is not in the right spot if you ever need to be medicated to stay in a relationship, right? That means that the problem isn't you, the problem is the relationship. Anyway, that's a big lesson learned. So, triggers. If you want for extra credit, share one of your triggers. At least think about your triggers today and start to be aware of things that create an automatic response in you. Again, good and bad, because what we want to do when we find the negative triggers, we want to replace them with a positive trigger. let me think of a quick example. I used to hate it when my alarm clock woke me up, right? I used to just hate it. And when I was younger, this was way when I was younger, I've spent years personally working on my get up and go morning routine. And by having a morning routine, that has really gotten over and helped me to destroy that, oh, I hate my alarm clock waking me up in the morning. But I had to do all kinds of things to overcome that trigger, because, you know, what's better than a great night's sleep and your rest, you're recharging your body, you feel awesome, and then bang, you hear this terrible sounding alarm, because they never have a nice sound. Now they do, but they didn't back then. It was always just this obnoxious ringing that would just, like, it gave me a headache. And I had, you know, nobody likes to have a positive activity interrupted. It usually was breaking into the middle of a really good dream, right? So it was annoying. So that was a trigger, and I had to find ways to create a morning routine to overcome that trigger. Now, 99% of the time, I wake up without needing my alarm clock. I just automatically, I'm a morning person. I wake up, and I always feel better when I wake up before my alarm clock, even now, than when the alarm clock wakes me up, because I feel like I'm in control. So instead of letting the ringing of an alarm clock or bell trigger me, although I will admit, my cell phone ringing annoys me. I need to change the ring on it, because it's an interruption. And it isn't about the trigger itself. It's that I personally do not like to be interrupted when I'm in the zone and I'm doing something that I want to do. So any outside annoyance, you know, I turn the notifications off on my phone. Any social media, notifications off. Otherwise, your phone's going ding, 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 ding. And it's like Pavlov's dog. It can drive you insane, because there's so many interruptions that we never can focus or get anything done. So share one of your triggers, and then share three fun things. Find 3 fun things on your list of options today, but make sure you're brainstorming a list of options, because we want to make sure that we always know there's so many choices and there's so many things available to us, instead of getting stuck in that fixed mindset where we think it's A or B. We have to do this or we're dead. We have to do that or we have no other options. We have to declare bankruptcy. So many people financially get themselves locked into this little box where they believe that there's only this or declare bankruptcy. Pay this bill or declare bankruptcy. Do this or declare bankruptcy. And so remember that in each of our areas of our life, we always have options. So brainstorm your options and see how much better that makes you feel. Just having a big list of all the possibilities, whether you're going to do them or not ever, guess what? I'm never going to a shrink. I'm probably never going to go to a shrink for my mindset. It's on my list. It'll be on my list today, but the probability of me doing that is slim to none. Now, why is it slim to none? It's probably slim to none because my ex-husband told me for years that I needed my head examined and that I needed to go to a shrink. Guess what? Who is the best expert on me and my mindset and what's going on in my thoughts and my head? Right? So I could go to a shrink. I could spend 25 years like one of my cousins going to a psychiatrist, getting medication, and never really solving the problems and moving on, because guess what? No one outside of me, no one outside of you can deal with the situation for you. They can help you, they can coach you, but it's ultimately up to us to decide if we're going to make changes in any area or aspect of it. That's it. Yapping too much today. Have an absolutely amazing day. I love the options one because I am all about life is full of infinite possibilities and anything is possible if we just believe it, right? So I guess mindset, mental capacity, all of this is kind of a fun one for me to work on. I hope it's fun for you too. All right, if I can help you anyway, hit me up, ask questions in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow for the A and so, because we want to keep moving forward, even though we're talking about a lot of side mindset things, just things that I've learned that I know have helped me, and I hope that they can help you too. All right, have a great day, and I will be with you tomorrow.